Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Tavis Leaf Glover, and today we're going to be looking at complementary colors. There's one huge myth about complementary colors floating around out there, and most artists fall for it. It's that they always look good together. Do they really? This is truly misleading for any beginner artist trying to make sense out of color theory. And it even catches professionals off guard. So just in case this is new to you, complementary colors are opposite on the color wheel. So red to green, purple to yellow, blue to orange, etc. So they aren't always needed, but if you plan to use them and they're next to each other, then the following information is crucial to understand. So before we go any further, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. It lets the YouTube algorithm know that you want to see more of this kind of stuff. All right, so let's take a step back and just see where this complementary colors came from. Way back in 1793, there was an American-born British scientist, Benjamin Thompson, who coined the term complementary colors. They didn't have Netflix back then, so he was just messing around with candles for entertainment. So what he noticed was the cast shadows of the candles had contrasting colors. This discovery led him to write,
"For every colour, without exception, whatever may be its hue or shade, or however it may be compounded, there's another in perfect harmony to it, which is its complement, and may be said to be its companion."
This leads us to our myth. Do they always look good together? Are they always in perfect harmony, as Thompson stated? Well, if you've seen my other video about the rule of thirds myths, you'll know that digging deeper is the only way to find the truth and more efficient way to benefit your art. In order to understand how complementary colors work together, let's go back to the first time this myth was proven wrong to me. It was back in 2010 when I was a measly old worker at a print and graphics center. I was designing a poster for a jewelry company. Not an online store like today, but an actual brick and mortar store with real people walking by.
It tells time simultaneously in Monte Carlo, Beverly Hills, London, Paris, Rome, and Stade.
The owner wanted to catch the attention of shoppers searching for their next string of bling.
I can't touch this.
I thought, oh, he wants to grab attention, huh? Okay. Well, I definitely have to use complementary colors. No question about it. After all, that's what I was taught in graphic design school. So I used green letters with a magenta outline. I knew I nailed it. But something was weird. A sickening, pulsating feeling happened when I tried to read the lettering. Can you see it too? I mean, just look at it. They're complementary colors, which are always supposed to work. So why does it seem so harsh on the eyes? Needless to say, the customer brought back his poster and had me redo it because it was hard to read. That's what he said. But even in this version, it's creating that pulsating feeling. Not so complementary, right? And we could do this with any complementary color to see that horrible effect. This pulsating effect is what we refer to as clashing colors, and occurs when one intense or vibrant color is neighboring another intense complementary color. In fact, it happens in other variations that have less intensity. When I say intensity, just think of vibrancy. If you're a photographer and you make a photo more vibrant, the colors are just getting more saturated and brighter. That's what intensity means. By now you might be feeling a little bit intimidated by complementary colors, but worry not.
I'm in a glass case of emotion!
Turn your frown upside down, because there's several ways we can tame this effect and control the complementary colors to our liking. As with any lesson to be learned, we can always turn to the master painters for guidance, where they learn their knowledge of color from nature. Claude Monet, another master painter, states that
Colour makes its impact from contrast rather than from its inherent qualities. The primary colours seem more brilliant when they are in contrast with their complementary colours.
this quote by Monet gives us clues to understanding, but doesn't really specify how to confidently control the complementary colors. To continue our journey into understanding complementary colors, let's look into a phenomenon called simultaneous contrast. It may sound intimidating because it has 7 syllables, but I assure you we can simplify this concept. In this example, we'll see a light gray circle surrounded by dark gray background. If we change the value of the dark background and make it lighter, the circle in the middle appears darker. We haven't changed anything except for the background, but our perception of the circle's value has changed. That's how simple simultaneous contrast is. Values will change depending on their neighboring value. There's no need to make it more complicated than that. So this same concept applies to colors, and it's the key to controlling complementary colors. That being said, in order to control complementary colors, we need to have a significant difference in the value of each color. Otherwise, we risk them clashing or creating ugly colors. In most cases, when it comes to art, we want harmony and beauty in the colors and not ugliness. Okay, so you might be saying,
But Travis, if the previous example with the words was black and white, it would have enough contrast, so what gives?
well, if the complementary colors are next to each other and we have the same intensity, we'll typically always create this clash. To control this, all we have to do is further lighten or darken one of the colors. It's a piece of cake. So a great way to do this is with the camera on your phone, and just use the black and white or mono filter, depends on which camera you have. So we use this with the phone because sometimes in Photoshop we'll get unreliable results. In this case, when the black and white filter in Photoshop is used, it makes the lettering darker, but we can clearly see that it's lighter than the magenta. So use your camera if you're ever in doubt. So you'll see we have enough contrast between the lettering, but the clashing colors are still there. So let's reveal the problem. So we're in Photoshop and using the phone camera to see the values. We can change the green to be lighter to help with the clashing. This is why it's important to use your eyes to judge the intensity and value of each color, then adjust things from there. That was the seemingly tough part. So in summary, we can control complementary colors by adjusting the intensity and or value of each. That's it. Now let's see this work with oil paints, then continue with more photos and master paintings. In this black and white video, we see two brush strokes, but they have similar value. This means low contrast. When the color is revealed, we see red and green, but they're still clashing, even though it's not as intense. If we take this painting by Matisse with complementary colors, yellowish, orange, and purple, green and red, we can see that there's something not quite right about it. Matisse loved to experiment with colors, but sometimes experimentations produce results that could be developed a bit further. We could see that the colors aren't as harmonizing or beautiful as they could be. So how can the colors of this painting be improved? Take your phone camera, put on the black and white filter, and see if you notice anything. Can you see how the yellowish orange is lighter to contrast with the dark purple? Yet a purer yellow would be more complementary, don't you think? Also, the purple, green, and red all blend together in the same dark value range. So another way we can try and tame these complementary colors and keep them from clashing is by using a neutral to separate them. This includes black, white, gray, and even brown colors. In this photo, I had the model wrapped in red fabric with green ferns around the frame. The complementary colors would clash more if they were next to each other, but they were separated by this neutral color which helped them work well together. So this is what the colors would look like in a simple comparison with and without the neutral. Can you see the difference? Perhaps that pulsating feeling is disappearing with the neutral in between? Here's another photo where I started a fire in the foreground to create those orange colors, and then the waterfall in the background added the complementary blue colors. They're also separated by a neutral. So it's only when we start putting these complementary colors together, that's when we start getting out of control. So the neutral helps them play nicely together. When we look at Matisse's painting again, we'll see that he used a thick black line to separate the complementary colors of yellow from purple and green from red, but the colors are still not as beautiful as they could be. This is partly because the black border is dark in value, just like the purple, green, and red. So you may be asking, what else can be adjusted? If we take what we've already learned, we know that we can lighten the green to add more contrast between the dark purple and red. We can also lighten the yellowish orange to make it more yellow. With these simple adjustments made, the contrast of the complementary colors is clearly defined. So what do you think? Don't the colors seem to harmonize a little bit more? If we want to further control the way our complementary colors are seen and create more interest in an area, we can gray down the colors. If we do this everywhere except for where the main focal point is, it will pop the colors out even more. So if you're painting, a gray can be created by slowly mixing the complementary colors together. So if you want a grayish green, you'd add a bit of red. If you want to reduce the intensity of yellow, you'd add a touch of purple, which is blue and red. If we have some fun in Photoshop with Matisse's painting again, we can gray down the colors surrounding the woman to direct more attention to her. The adjustments you make depend on the story and the mood that you're trying to create. I think the more colorful version is exactly the story Matisse wanted to tell, but absorb this knowledge and use it when you need it. Here's a nice landscape painting by Gogh where he used a grayish green in the leaves of the tree to make the red sky more vibrant. The swatches show how the contrast makes the colors pop. So this hierarchy of contrast and intensity helps us avoid clashing colors. Now that you know how to control complementary colors, let's take a look at some more master paintings to allow it to sink in even further. Van Gogh was absolutely known for his colorful paintings, so let's dig into him a bit. When Van Gogh was describing his painting, The Night Cafe, to his brother Theo in 1888, he wrote,
I sought to express with red and green the terrible human passions. The hall is blood red and pale yellow, with a green billiard table in the center, and 4 lamps of lemon yellow with rays of orange and green. Everywhere is a battle of antithesis of the most different reds and greens.
Here's Van Gogh's original painting. Notice how the background cabinet holding the bottles of liquor is painted with a light green next to a dark red. The green on the ceiling is also lighter than the red. If you take your phone camera out and use the mono filter again, you'll see that the values are like a perfect Ansel Adams photo. Seems as though Van Gogh knew exactly how to control the complementary colors. If the light green areas were adjusted to be darker like the pool table, it would definitely not work as well, and you can see this in the example. Van Gogh also wrote to Theo,
Searching for oppositions of blue with orange, of red with green, of yellow with purple, searching for broken colors and neutral colors to harmonize the brutality of extremes, trying to make the colors intense and not a harmony of grays.
In this selfie by Van Gogh, we can see that he used darker orange for his beard and hair, so they contrast nicely against the light blue background. If he painted the beard to be as light as the background, we wouldn't have the desirable contrast needed for complementary colors. Here's another master, Toulouse-Lautrec, using a light pink dress and surrounding the woman with dark greens. The dark reds and greens in the background are equal in value and subdued, which we'll talk more about in a bit. This famous painting by Michelangelo shows the same control of complementary colors. He uses a light green next to a dark red in the subject on the right. In this next photo by a creative fashion photographer named Hero, he's using complementary colors. Yet if we use our phone camera again to see the values, we'll find that the red and green are very close to each other. Sure, the red is very intense and there's a neutral separating them, but it still doesn't help create beautiful colors. So what can we do to make the colors more harmonious? When we lighten the green, we see how the simultaneous contrast of the colors work in favor of the image. Don't you agree? In this photo by Annie Leibovitz, we see how well the light pink complements the dark green of the rose bush. The shadows also create the neutral in between the various greens around the roses. How about logos? The same concept applies to them. This Burger King logo with complementary colors dark blue and light orange works well. They're also separated by a neutral white, which tames them even more. Here's a Lakers logo that has complementary colors light yellow with dark purple and surrounded by white on a dark purple background. The contrast between the yellow and purple is also enough to allow us to easily read the letters on the basketball. In this Applebee's logo, they use complementary colors that are close in value, which is typically not desirable, but they use neutrals to try and tame them. If we create more contrast by lightening the green, we can see how the bottom of the apple isn't being lost in the dark green like it used to be. Here's a Starbucks Christmas design that is improved by adjusting the value, just as we did with the Applebee's logo. In the original, the dark red was the same value as the dark green, but when a lighter pink snowflake design is behind the logo pops out more. Since the only white of the new design remains in the logo, our attention is directed to it more, as opposed to the original with smaller white snowflakes stealing the attention. Now let's test your knowledge so far. Think about adjustments that need to be made, and be sure to ask yourself plenty of questions. Are these complementary colors? Are they next to each other? Do I want these to be subdued or more prominent? Is the contrast correct between the colors to achieve your goal? If the complementary colors aren't being separated with enough value contrast, are they being tamed with a neutral? Did I use my phone camera to see the values better? In this painting by Norman Rockwell, are the complementary colors of red and green in high enough contrast to create a visual pop? Or are they low in contrast to remain subdued? If you use your phone camera or even squint, you'll see the contrast is very low. If these colors were more intense, they would clash. The results all depend on the goal of the artist. When the green of the woman's outfit is adjusted to be lighter, we can see how it enhances the overall colors. Sometimes though, the colors don't need to be tamed and can clash on purpose, but this usually isn't desired, unless you're Matisse. but he was the leading figure in the Fauvism movement. This is a movement where loud and vivid colors were welcome. So these paintings with complementary colors of the same low value, as we also saw with the Toulouse-Lautrec painting earlier, these can be used strategically in areas that don't require a lot of visual interest. Background elements are usually subdued so they don't distract us from the main subject. So in the Matisse painting, the tree on the left is in low contrast because it's near the edge and we don't want high contrast near the edge. Let's see this all come together in another great master painting. Here we see on the left that there's a darker neutral between the light green background and the red. We also have a low value red next to a low value green on the middle shoulder. High contrast isn't needed in this area, so the complementary colors are subdued. Squint hard or use your phone camera to see the values.
Color is my day-long obsession, joy, and torment.
So in this painting by Monet, what adjustments should we make, if any? This is a great example of what you should do to benefit the overall purpose of the painting. If you use your phone camera to view the values, you'll see that the orange sun almost disappears. This means the contrast is very low. If we lighten the sun to increase the contrast, it loses that pulsating feeling, which is good, but it also becomes the main subject and steals the show from the person in the boat. We kind of have a battle of contrasting elements, and the main subject should be the ultimate winner. Is Monet trying to tell a story about the person in the boat or the beautiful sunset? This is how powerful contrast is and how it can help communicate your story. We'll all have different opinions, but I'd assume that the story is about the sunset and the people in the boat are appreciating it. So what if you go back through some of your old paintings or photos and make subtle color adjustments to improve them? The possibilities? Pretty endless, now that you have this knowledge at your fingertips. In this old photo from 2012, the magenta and dark greens were a little harsh. Some aesthetic adjustments were made in Photoshop to lighten the magenta so it would harmonize better with the greens. Also, some areas were grayed out with less vibrancy, while it was slightly increased near the face. In this painting by Gogh, we see that the landscape is primarily dark green and orange. If we make the orange a lighter reddish color and lighten some of the greens, we'll see a subtly more colorful painting. By now you should have a greater understanding of complementary colors and how they can be controlled to benefit your art. Heck, this knowledge might even benefit those that are colorblind because they can use their phone cameras and Photoshop to see value and intensity. We now know that complementary colors don't always work together as the myth goes, but we can certainly make it so. Just be sure to pay attention to the intensity, the contrast, and use neutral colors if you need to tame them further. So thanks so much for joining in today. I appreciate all the continued support. You guys are awesome. It means the world. Seriously, your support keeps this site going, keeps videos coming, and keeps everybody's art growing and progressing further forward. Feel free to swing by the website or indulge in more YouTube videos. For any of you that are new to the channel, I'm dedicated to help artists of all kinds learn the secrets of master painters so they can surpass any plateau they come across. Final destination, master level.